I like your background better than mine.
Recording. Okay, so welcome to Enhancing the Accountant Bookkeeper Connection series featuring KATA Accounting. So I think everybody by now on the call knows me. So I'm Tanya Hilt, certified professional bookkeeper and founder of Cloud Business Services and Tanya's Bookkeepers Bootcamp. A little bit about myself. I'm not going to go through all of this again. The only new thing is that I am this year, of course, board of directors, and I am also treasurer. And chair of the finance committee for CPB Canada. Otherwise, you guys can read all that stuff. You've heard it. I don't want to bore you. Yeah, that's about me. Family experiences, and no experiences are happening this year. So that's great. So this webinar has been submitted for CEC credits or IPBC. There will be 2 polls that must be answered in order to qualify for the credits. A recording of the email will be sent out within 2 days, and certificates for the CEC credits will be emailed within 2 weeks of receiving approval. I have not yet received word either way from the last one because they are only meeting, I think now that they're only meeting once every 2 months or once a quarter on these. So, but I do follow up, of course, and as soon as I receive, we certainly are expecting and hoping the last one for PD credits as well. Anyway, okay, so KATA Accounting. So I've been collaborating with Jonathan and his team for a number of years. We have multiple mutual clients. What I love about Jonathan is he works in QBO. I find it very refreshing and I just love it, I guess, working with an accountant who works in QBO because they are more in tune to those little things. So for example, an AP journal entry without having, just a general one without having a vendor or supplier to attach it to. Accountants that are just dealing in the high end and don't actually dig into the books, maybe don't get our frustration with that. So, I love working with accountants and Jonathan. He's right hands in, he's all that. He's got absolutely amazing attention to, client detail and outstanding customer service. So absolutely love dealing with Jonathan. And that is it for me. So Jonathan, you can take it away. Oh, you're muted.
It's amazing you say the customer service, because that lines up very well with today's idea, which is creating a customer experience. So just quickly, maybe we could do a quick, how many people are incorporated? I'm just curious. How many people are sole prop? How many are incorporated?
Incorp.
Sole prop.
What? Sole prop?
Mm-hmm.
Incorp.
Okay, so we've got a bit of a variety. So that's good. Okay, that's good, because there's some things that I want to that we'll go into that might apply in different situations, right? So okay, just thank you for the introduction, Tanya. I'm Jonathan Carter, founder of KATA Accounting Solutions, professional corporation, member of the inaugural Intuit Accountants Council. I've had a long-standing relationship with them. I help them from time to time. Most recently, helping on preparing the webinar for the IPBC for work papers. They just want somebody to dry run and make sure that they were hitting their target audience. I told them not to talk about Giphy because bookkeepers don't care about Giphy. Recipient of 2018 Inspire Accountant Award, Elite ProAdvisor, QBO Advanced Certified. I do work with several bookkeeping firms, and I do work with a lot of accounting and technology firms as well. And that's where we like to play, is in the technology world. So just a few things about today. A lot of this is going to be my opinion. That's why it's interactive. By all means, tell me I'm wrong. Tell me your opinion and what you think, and how you would do things differently. So today we're talking about the customer experience. Why does it matter? And then what are the stages in the customer journey? Now, most of that we're going to be focused on the sales funnel and just in principle and ideas about the onboarding and the loyalty part of that customer experience. The reason being is I think you could probably spend an hour on the sales funnel, an hour on the onboarding process, and an hour on building customer loyalty. So I'm going to talk about what has worked and what hasn't worked, and feedback loops, which is something that really, really helps us out. And then just a little bit about capturing and leveraging testimonials if we can get to that. So, poll question. Where does the customer journey end? A, when you send the invoice. B, when it ends when the statute of limitations on the work you've completed passes. C, it ends when the customer fires you or you fire the customer. D, it ends when you or the customer die. Or E, it never ends. So this is an opinion question. There isn't a correct answer.
So go ahead and put this into chat, because this is not the poll question that I have. I have two different ones. Why do relationships matter?
Oh,
and
that's
maybe
from last.
That was the last one. Okay, so go ahead and just put these into chat. I will make note of that.
Sorry about that. Not
Sorry.
Sure what happened.
Yep.
Bad customer experience.
And then the next one will come up properly.
Yeah.
All right, so we've got 3. So just remember that in order to qualify for the CC credits, we've got, hang on, we've got more people. Here's Kim. I'm bringing you in as a panelist, Kim. So, yep, just remember that you need to answer both questions to qualify for the CEC. We've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Yeah, you're in here, Kim, now, and you should be able to talk now. Okay, so I guess maybe we'll give 5 more seconds, give everybody a chance. And because this isn't, okay. Thank you, Stacy. Helen, just to let you know, I guess you sent it to Stacy privately. You didn't just go to all panels. So I'm just going to go quickly through then, just to make sure that, like, if anybody else had a private message sent to them, if you could just take a quick peek. If it says to you privately, just let me know. It doesn't matter what answer, just that you're interacting.
All right. So
Okay.
if everybody's given their responses,
Yes,
I'm
Kim.
curious as to what people think. When does the relationship end? Okay.
Personally, I say it never ends, really. And it depends. It really depends. It really depends, because there are some people that I have fired and I am like, it is done right there. But really, realistically, if something comes back from the time that you were working with the client, there was like an audit process that came in, there was something that came back differently. Are we going to just leave it? Are we going to step up? I think all of us would probably just step up and, regardless of how or when the client left, if it was something within there, and if it's something, clearly out of scope, then that's still something we're going to contact them and say, I'm sorry, this was out of scope. This was, whichever. And yeah, so that's my opinion.
Yeah, I would agree with that. And a lot of that, it never ending comes from a CYA area. And I mean, of course, this applies to corporations, because a corporation can survive the ownership of the corporation. Whereas if you're a sole proprietor and you're dead, you're really not going to care about the client relationship, right?
No, but your estate could. Right?
Your estate could, that's true.
Your estate could, and that happens to me all the time, that I'm helping them deal with that final year end, or, if it's they have to do a trust return, make sure to help them get them in the right, the right direction of somebody that can handle that.
That's true. That's true too. Does anybody else have any other opinions about this? Okay.
I really liked Kathy's answer.
All right. So for those of
Sorry, I liked Kathy's answer. C if you're tough, and E if in the reality.
Yeah.
Good answer. I like that one. Okay, so for anyone who was here last month, you'll probably notice this bullet seems very familiar. I thought it really mattered. Last month we were talking about relationships matter, and this this kind of bullet I thought really applied. Just some obvious things, right? Satisfied customers, they buy again and again and again. But those who are happy are more likely to return, and those who are really pleased are more likely to recommend, refer, and become brand champions. Does anybody have brand champions? Yeah, yeah, awesome, awesome. They're amazing. Like brand champions won't refer you once or twice. They'll refer you like 5 or 6 times a year. It's amazing. And unhappy customers can seriously damage the business's reputation, leaving bad reviews, word of mouth on the street, talking with people in their industry, bad mouthing the organization, things like that. Of course, you're not going to be able to make everybody happy, and I think that's more and more of a reason to niche. It's easier to make a very focused and concentrated group of people happy. So just to give a quick thing about us, we have very, very few customers who have found us. Almost our entire customer base is through referral and through like the first like year and a half when I was on my own in a chair in my little closet of an office and going out meeting people. Almost all of it has come from that networking and then referrals after that. So to run through, yep.
I just wanted to throw in just a really quick little anecdote here about that. So back when I only did taxes, I only had about 300 clients, small area back up there. And I had Rod would happen to be out. My husband was out at soccer because the kids had soccer. I was working part-time with TELUS at that point as well. And he was talking to somebody, one of the other parents, about, the other person brought up about the tax person, I've got a great tax person, this and that, which is funny. It wasn't tax season. It was summer for the soccer. And Rod says, well, no, that's okay. My husband or my wife does it, but you know what, maybe, if you're not happy or whatever, you should give her a call. And they sat there basically kind of, and this has happened multiple times, once with Rod and once with another set of clients, basically kind of argue back and forth that their tax person is the best person. And it was me. Both of them were me. And they're like,
that's hilarious. That's hilarious.
So yeah, I got calls from 2 clients, same things, that they were basically arguing with each other as to who had the best tax person. And yeah. And then, like I say, once with Rod. So it's really funny. And especially that was taxes. It wasn't tax season. It just kind of came up out of the blue. But yeah, if you've got satisfied customers, like, yeah, they'll go out and they'll just when they're in the right mood, they'll argue that you're the best. So
we have one customer who's a regular bookkeeping and a tax customer. He's a speaker, so he's really hurting right now, unfortunately. But when he came to us, he was just ready to buy. That was just it. He's just like, I've heard so much about you from so-and-so. How much and when can we get started? And that was the entire sales conversation. It was very, very weird.
We have one right now that we're onboarding or getting ready to onboard. We're not taking clients. We decided we are not taking anybody. We decided to take them because they're a great feather in the cap. I don't know. They haven't signed anything yet, but let's just say they are the farm team to one of the NHL teams. So
very cool.
Great feather in the hat. I do have experience with hockey as well. Several years ago when I was subcontracting for somebody, it was our local minor hockey association. So I do have some experience with that. But yeah, they were like, no, I won't take no for an answer. I want you. And we're like, but we're not taking on any clients. Well, no, I won't accept that. I want you. And so, there again, when it's hockey season, it's going to be, it's great. So we decided, we'll take them on because they don't have a lot right now because it's been shut down. We'll be able to get them caught up, get their year end done. But he's also a CPA and he does not go in the books on purpose. He does not get involved in that side of the books, which is really interesting. So he's heard about us from locally, from the industry and from locally, and he didn't take no for an answer. So you're right, like it's powerful, and we don't pay a lot for advertising. It's all referrals, and that's very, very powerful. So just want to throw that in there.
When I realized how effective my advertising budget was, I decided to redirect it.
Yep.
That's pretty much what happened with me.
Well, and that's
I
exactly
spent like $12,000 a year for the last 2 years advertising, and it's gotten very, very few clients.
exactly. And your clients, you're right, they come from referrals, whether it be you've got great relationships with the bookkeepers, and so they're referring to you, whether it be the clients are referring to other clients, whether it be through niching. You're right, there's so many more ways, and it's so much easier and satisfying to us to keep the client satisfied, to be able to get those referrals. And that's at 90% of our business is referrals. Again, our advertising budget, I think, is about $500 a year. And that is including our networking groups. So,
wow. Okay. So you include that in networking as well. When I say advertising, I'm talking like strictly advertising.
yeah, no, that's, we do some Facebook.
Some through Facebook, some through Google, and then some was actually in place. And I seem to keep getting talked into to the center and advertising through the center, which is not being effective.
Yeah, no, we did pay $5,000 last year for something that was supposed to be, again, more of a networking, and we were going to be a founder of this, so I put it under advertising, and they ended up not doing anything with it, and COVID hit, and then guess what, they went under. So that 5,000 went for nothing. So, but with the exception of that, that was the very first time that we tried it. It was something really new. Again, more networking, but otherwise, yeah, like 500, that's including the Facebook and everything. So, but it's just referral.
I see your comment there, Kim. Yeah. So so that's something I'd like to talk about a little bit later, right towards the end, because systematizing how you ask for referrals and how you ask for testimonials and things like that can be helpful. We don't get a very good penetration rate, unfortunately, but one of the kind of the weird things we have right now is like the reviews we get are very, very good, and it doesn't look natural, and that kind of concerns me a little bit, to be honest. All right, so let's jump into this. So everybody knows what the sales funnel is, right? So stage one of the sales funnel is awareness. So they have a problem, they recognize they have a problem, and they know who you are, like, or your business is, and that they think you might be able to solve the problem. They can often self-evaluate if they're a good fit, and the more clear your message, the better they can self-evaluate, and more importantly, self-exclude and not waste either of your time. There's nothing worse for me as a cloud-based accountant to get a phone call and it's like, hey, so-and-so told me about your company, or I've seen you on Facebook, or I've seen you on LinkedIn, and when can you meet? I need you to come to my office. And then I have to go through that whole spiel of explaining we're cloud-based accountants. Happy to meet you on Zoom. I can send you the scheduling link right now. You can set up the time that suits you. But then it's like, well, I really would like to meet in person and this, that, and the other thing. And it really becomes a non-starter for us. And I hate to say it that way. I will meet with customers in person, but I'm not going to jump through a ton of hoops to satisfy somebody's, for lack of a better term, ego or lack of tech savvy. To just be able to get an additional customer who's probably going to be a challenge, because if they can't use Zoom, how are they going to use the other tools that we use? So in forming the message, some of the questions are, what kind of prospects do you want? What's the message you're delivering? And are the right customers contacting you? So right now we're having a little bit of a debate about having a referral program again, because what has happened historically is we get a bunch of referrals that are bad fits, and about I'm exaggerating. It's probably about 60 to 70% of them don't actually convert. That's a lot of time. That's a lot of phone calls. It's a lot of Zoom meetings. That's a lot of trying to explain to people how we do what we do. And they're not the right type of customer. So we're actually debating if we're going to have a referral program for this coming tax season for that. So that gets into the idea of qualifying leads. And again, back to the idea of self-evaluating and self-excluding. I always like to have a conversation, preferably by email, but we'll do a phone call. We'll take them in from the online form on the website. But if we can get the right kind of people emailing us, the right kind of people sending us online forms, that really helps. The right type of people are not going to call. not for me. They're not going to pick up the phone. They're not going to find my phone number. They're not going to call my phone number. Every now and again, we get somebody who finds us on Find an Accountant, and then they find us online, and we have a 1-800 number with an answering service. So I get a message from them that there is somebody. Again, not a great use of resources. And it can help you understand how needy is the customer. Are they a good fit for you? Do you want to work with them? Those kind of things. Tanya, who is in the growth stage of their business right now, and what are you doing? So Kim, if you don't mind just sharing, what kind of customers do you want, and how are you messaging to try and get those kinds of customers?
I can answer the first half of your question very easily. The second half, not so well. I am really trying to target a couple of different niche markets. Number one, I really like service-oriented businesses. I don't want to get too much into retail and inventory or even manufacturing or anything like that. The ones that I've worked with in the past that were usually my favorite clients to work with were people that through their own company were helping other people. So I had some life coaches, I had some psychotherapists, some nutritionists, massage therapists. So I sort of called them my holistic healer group. And that's, people that are touching the lives of other people through the work that they do, with the exception of actual medical practitioners. So not doctors, not dentists, that type of thing. And then the other market that I really would like to get more involved with is veterinarian clinics. I really have decided for a long time, I've been looking for what charity organization I can work with and really feel for. And I just have such a passion for animals. And I'm actually have a veterinarian clinic right now that's a prospect. I have a meeting with him later this week to do a value pricing proposal for the first time. And through the onboarding prospecting system with him and doing the diagnostic for his business and everything, I realized that I would really I'm very excited to work with him. So I think I would like to target more vet clinics as well. For the second half of your question of what I'm doing, that is, I'm throwing a bunch of stuff against the wall and seeing what sticks. I'm having a difficult time finding where to find these people. Like everyone always says, find out where your target person hangs out. Well, nowadays nobody hangs out anywhere, right? It's all virtual networking, and I'm just having trouble finding where to get these people. So I recently did do a couple of print advertising things, which I had done a long time ago when I first started my business. And had zero results from it. But the opportunity that crossed my path this time was incredibly cheap. It was $99. And it went to 30,000. It was a print advertisement. It went to 30,000 businesses. I have had the first day that it came out, I had like 3 calls, but none of them were my niche market. And I find that's what happened a couple of times. I've done some trade shows and I get a lot of inquiries and a lot of people, and I end up giving all those referrals away to other bookkeepers because they're not who I'm looking for, and not who I'm looking for in such a large capacity that it's not that they're just not a holistic healer, but they're just so far off the realm of what I am looking for that I just don't want that type of client. So I'm paying for these trade show tables, I'm paying for advertising, and then I'm giving those leads away to other people for free. So, and the reason in the past, the referrals that were coming in, it was great for them to just trickle in. I would get referrals from current clients or other bookkeepers, maybe 5 a year, or, maybe 10 a year in a good year that I had. But, given what's happened to my business with COVID and that my previous niche market was the travel industry, I'm in a place right now where I need to grow fast. And so for those referrals to just trickle in slowly, it's not fast enough for what I need to do. So that's where I'm saying my growth plan is very aggressive right now, and I honestly don't know what's going to work.
Okay. I'm going to come back to some ideas and whatnot down the road
Sure.
about what we've talked about. But just to help me understand a bit more, do you like, is it the animal love, like the love of animals, or is it the love of veterinary? It's more the love of animals, right? So would you work with like obedience training schools, canine companies,
Groomers,
because
grooming
they do exist at
facilities.
groomers? Yeah, exactly. So all those kind of things,
Yeah,
doggy
anybody
daycares,
that
things like
helps. So I like the businesses that help people feel good, and I like the businesses that help our pets feel good. Because that's my family. My family is me and my pets, right? I have my, obviously my blood family, but my pet, I don't have children. My pets are my children. And so I love people that help us feel good about ourselves, and then people that help my babies feel good too. They just went to the spa yesterday. They're all happy and clean and smelling great. And yeah,
Nice.
so
Nice. Okay, I'm gonna keep moving on, but I want to keep us all to keep this animal lover, helping people, helping animals, that kind of thing in mind throughout the rest, because it might help us help Kim. So the next is, of course, evaluation. Sounds like you're going into that tomorrow, Kim, where you either have a pricing menu or engagement offer. Pricing menu is more of the subscription model. Everybody's the same. Nobody's going to be different. These are the prices, take them or leave them. The value pricing is definitely more detailed, more well thought out. And you usually still give them a tier of prices, but they're tailored to that particular situation and the value that that client is seeking. And before providing that, you want to know that you want your company to work with that customer. Like, personalities for me are a big disqualifier. One of our big flag phrases is can't we just? Can't we just tells me that I'm going to have trouble down the road getting documents, getting compliance, and getting things done properly. Can't we just is a big red flag phrase for me. And then, of course, it's also very important during this stage to set and understand the expectations. So, for instance, we used to work with a lot of we'll call them mid-size e-commerce companies. These are companies that we're bringing in between, let's call it $1 million and 20 million in revenue on e-commerce. And what we were finding was that the expectations that we set were not the expectations that they had. And it created a lot of disconnect and a lot of challenges, and actually resulted in us losing money by serving those customers, one of those customers. So next stage is the intent stage. It's where you can negotiate if you choose to negotiate. I don't like to negotiate. I'll give a price, and like, this is, so if you want a lower price, what are you dropping? To get that lower price. I'm not going to just drop my price because you ask for a lower price. It's amazing. If you are in negotiation, one of the first things you can do is just stay quiet, and people can negotiate themselves down without you saying a thing. It's amazing sometimes. So this is something, the next bullet, beware of what the customer needs and what is included. Because what I find is sometimes a customer thinks they need this suite of products, but they really need a larger suite of service, but they're not willing to pay for even the basic. And in those instances, I would rather not work with that customer from my perspective, because they're going to want the moon and they're going to pay for, the hamburger. And it's not really, there's going to be a big disconnect. Will definitely be scope creep. And if they're there and you're not fulfilling all their needs, they're going to think you're doing a bad job, even though they didn't hire you to do the job that they need. And then eventually they're going to move along. And, it's better to say no before you get embroiled with this. Just a quick anecdote from my life. One of those companies, that the e-commerce I was talking about, that we actually lost money on, we are making money on the after work because we're charging them a standard hourly rate that's substantial, and they have nowhere to go. They're completely disorganized. The guy literally sold his company in December 2018. I didn't find out until January. Do you think maybe I should have known earlier? And I found out in January because they needed financial statements like then. and they hadn't submitted documents since August. Like, all these disconnects were just created a nightmare situation. A lot of stress for me, a lot of stress for the team, a lot of stress for the client. Client's not happy, we're not happy, the relationship isn't working. So we talked about firing bad clients before, and in this case, I'm just, for lack of a better term, I'm just making sure that we get our due as we go through the final stages of working with this customer. So the purchase and engagement part, this part is usually actually for us is pretty easy because we've done all that pre-work, that experience. We've talked to them, we have an idea what they want, what they need, things like that. And for us, that this is where the onboarding process begins. The minute they sign the contract, we don't do barely anything before they sign the contract. We enter them in our CRM and set up the workflow and send out the contract. If they don't sign that contract, we don't even create the folder for them. We don't send them the pre-authorized credit card form. We don't do any of that. And for us, having a good understanding of the technical capability is very important. One of the questions I always ask when I'm vetting out a customer is, are you familiar with Google Drive and G Suite? Because if they're not, it can be that much more challenging. If somebody's like, I'm sorry, I've only ever used Apple, that's going to be a really tough fit for us because we don't use Apple internally. I do have some limited knowledge, but what I find is sometimes people who only ever use Apple everything can't play outside that sandbox. And it can become a big challenge to get documents, to get files in a format that we can read, things like that. So we like to have our onboarding process to be less than a week. So usually it's like from evaluate, once that contract is signed, we've brought over all the subscriptions, we've started the process, they've been introduced to the team, they get their first set of questions the following week. So that's how we do it. And I think this is a really good first step to building customer loyalty, and that kind of cheerleader that can turn into a brand champion. Because if they're really happy here, then, you know, if you can keep them happy and build that up over the first, like, say 2 or 3 months, great time to ask for that testimonial, great time to ask for referrals, especially once you start getting people in that realm. So for instance, something we find we work with a lot are video production people, digital marketers, like those kind of online businesses, like, you know, creating YouTube videos and things like that. And it's pretty easy to ask. It's like, hey, you know, if any of your buddies in the industry need help, you know, be sure to bring our name forward. We'll do something for you. And we do something. We don't, again, like I talked about with the referral program, we're a little hesitant to go back into that this year, but I'm sure we'll do something for people.
So if I can just jump in here for a second too, Jonathan, if that's okay.
Yeah, of course.
So what I've got, and I've just literally done this last month, and it's for multiple reasons, and I'm going to share the link. I put it in the chat, and I guess people can't copy it, so I'm going to do a Google Doc and then put that in so that you can just grab the link. And part of this was something I kind of thought about doing. Part of this was to be able to get reviews, and part of it is also to be able to get future sales, to see potentially from that client, to see what you need to do. And it was really interesting. So it's just a brief questionnaire. I sent it through 17 Hats. I sent it out. I got about a 50% response rate. And also it's going to help when I increase their prices, to remind them of what they said in here when we have to do a price increase. But it was, you know, basically what are 5 items or indicators that you measure to know how your business is doing. So that I got directly from Jeannie Whitehouse because I'm doing a mentorship through her. And I thought that's perfect because it'll help you see where that client might need more help to help get you into the advisory side of it, from compliance to advisory. The next question would be, what do you do if things are not where they should be business-wise? I had to laugh when one of the clients just answered, I call you. I'm like, okay, great. That's what you want. But overall, how satisfied are you with the quality of our service? How likely are you to recommend our services? Describe a recent interaction where you may have had with our team that stands out as being above expectations. That right there is your review. So you don't have to ask for review because, you know, somebody in there put that you don't know, you know, you're not comfortable asking for the review or don't know how to ask. Right there, that's great. And then just say, hey, you know, can I use that somewhere? Then just, is there anything we can change that would increase the quality of our service to you? And is there anything else you wish to add? Now, the increase the quality of the service is really funny because, again, you can use that to potentially upsell their package. But I also had one client who took a support plan, which is our lowest plan, which is a DIY. They do it themselves. They have a call with us every month that they can ask their questions. We do a monthly review of their file, but it's very reactive because we're reviewing everything after it's put in. We talk about things after it's been put in, unless they bring up a question. And so he gave us an 8 out of 10. And I'm like, what? An 8 out of 10? Like, where does this 8 out of 10 come from? I'm expecting a 10 out of 10. And he put in that he wished we were more proactive. And I'm like, oh, so obviously it wasn't very clear, even though he had been with us, you know, several years. I thought it was clear. It obviously wasn't very clear exactly kind of what our package was. We had a conversation. He's actually now moved up to a different package, but it's still more of a reactive package. But we at least quoted him and said, you know what, we can be a little bit proactive. But remember, if you don't have advisory plan, you need to kind of bring the thoughts up to us, because we don't know what you're thinking of, or we can go to a strictly advisory, like add in the advisory, but that's where we're going to really be working with you, you know, in a different level. But so that was interesting. So we had, you know, like I say, we probably had out of the people I sent it to again, about a 50% come back. And everybody was, you know, lots of great things to be able to take from that recent interaction question to use as reviews, as well as the fact that it let us know where we're going. You know, we had 10 out of 10s across the board, except for the one. And again, a great opportunity to look and see where either maybe you're lacking, because Kelly Parks has said this, and I thought that was really interesting. Probably about a year and a half ago in a webinar she was, and she's been doing this for ages. She does something very similar, different questions, but she's been doing this for ages. And she said it's because she thought she was giving the client great service, and she actually wasn't meeting the client's expectations. And she was quite shocked with that. So asking these questions can let you know truly where you stand. And again, a lot of that is just the client's perception and your perception. There was obviously a miscommunication somewhere, but so it can help for multiple things. So I'm just going to share the link out if you guys wanted to grab that.
That's awesome. Thank you for sharing that. So the last thing I was going to say about this slide is make it easy for your customer to buy. We want to make it very easy for them to pay us. Our methodology is we collect a pre-authorized credit card form. If they're a monthly bookkeeping client, they get dinged on the first of the month every month. And then if they are a tax client, they get the invoice gets run, and the credit card gets charged when the file gets uploaded for their review. So it's not necessarily the end of the process, but the bulk of the work has been completed. We do that. Most of our customers think it's awesome. There have been very few instances where customers have been like, hey, why'd you run my credit card without asking? I went in and I looked at the invoice and said it was already paid. It's like right in the engagement letter. It's right there. And reading, of course, is kind of a challenge for some people. And we found that repeatedly, but we have it there. You know, our butts are covered. And there's very few instances where people don't like to do that. We do allow people to not provide a pre-authorized credit card form. We do have the odd situation where it's like that. But unless they're coming to us through a solid relationship, we tend not to take that. We've had too many customers in the past just say, no, I'm not paying you, sue me. And it's not worth it. So anybody else ever have that happen? A customer just gets you to do the work and then just refuses to pay? Not like you did bad work or anything like that. They're just saying, no, screw you. I'm not going to pay you. Trump School of Business. No? Okay.
Yeah,
Sorry. Sorry, let me just jump in just 1 second. So I've got a few requests for access to the document. If I do that, that actually gives you, it doesn't save it to your drive. It means that you can change the original document and then nobody can see what was there before your changes. So what you'll want to do on Google Drive is basically save a copy and then that like save a copy to your drive, and then that is your copy that you can go ahead and edit and access as well.
Sorry, go, Stacy.
I've had a couple of clients just, we sat back and we said, you know, we will do this, but we cannot do a T2 return. And we told him, he seemed to understand, he worked with us the whole bit. And then when we handed him his entire package ready to go to the tax accountant to be able to do the T2 return, he's like, what? You didn't do it? I thought that's what you were going to do. And to the point where I ended up sending him to collections, but I knew that was a waste of my time because it was the final thing that they were doing before closing up shop. And so I've been burned like that a couple of times, and it's,
Yeah.
and it's frustrating.
Another thing in the kind of like the client the customer interview stage, or the kind of get to know you stage, that I watch out for is if it's one-off work. If it's one-off work, then I think the payment risk is higher. And like, we don't check that the credit card is valid. They could put in complete fiction and we go to run the credit card and it doesn't work. So like that, there's definitely different things that, helping somebody dissolve a corporation, things like that. Like there's times to take retainers. I just saw the comment about the taking retainers for tax work, not filing until you're paid. As a CPA, I'm not allowed to do that. If I have signature before the deadline, I have to file by the deadline. I'm not allowed to refuse to file before unless I'm paid. We do say that, but I'm not allowed to do it. So, okay, onboarding. I'm just going to zoom through this because this could really be a whole webinar on itself, I'm sure. We use data collection. Our main source is online form. Every now and again, we'll need a phone call to clarify some things, but we prefer the online form. And that is just an adaptation of paper questionnaires that we got from CPA Ontario and different places to do that. One thing that's important is the login credentials and app access. And one thing we do not do is get access to their bank account, because then there can be no monkey business if we can't access their money, right? So after this initial part is done, then we always have a quick team introduction. They get an email right at the very, very beginning. So even before data collection, they get the email, and then they'll get the engagement letter, and then they'll go through the data collection process. Then we call on the telephone. The Zoom meeting is still kind of a big deal for a lot of people. It's like, oh, I got to have a Zoom meeting. And, it's kind of a big deal. But people will pick up the phone, just be like, oh, this is Neri from KATA Accounting. I'm going to be working on your books. I just wanted to call and introduce myself and ask if you had any questions for me right now. And usually there's nothing. It's like a 5 or 6 minute phone call, a little bit of pleasantries, but it adds a lot of personal touch that really helps. One of the criticisms we've received is they're not sure if they're dealing with robots because of the automation that's involved and the generic nature of a lot of our canned emails and things like that. So process creation and communication, we always set up like the base of what we think the processes are, and then have a Zoom call and go over those processes and understand where the client's coming from and whatnot. We like to create a customer cheat sheet for our bookkeeping clients, and we like to make it very, very, very simple. And then we ask questions on a weekly basis to try and keep it current. There's nothing worse than saying, what did you do in January 2019, right? We do everything we can to make it as easy as possible for the customer to give us information and to get in a good habit. And that is the hardest part we've had about working with bookkeeping clients, is helping them build the habits that are necessary to really do a good job. Stacey, you look like you wanted to chime in.
Yeah, what I wanted to find out is what do you use for that cheat sheet?
Just me. So I have a very basic Google drawing.
Okay.
And it's like 2 pictures. It's like what's going on in the system, and then it's what you do, and it's just like a little stick figure, and it's like send to HubDoc or Receipt Bank, answer emails and phone calls from us, and that's more or less it.
Okay.
Like we just try and make it as simple as possible for them. It's really generic. It needs a bad update because I think it even uses the old QuickBooks Online logo.
Gotcha. And you just It's just a Google Doc. It's not like a task list or
We
anything. It's
PDF it. We
oh, okay.
PDF it.
Okay.
And it's just like, so essentially our process, they feed into HubDoc or Receipt Bank. They have to do certain things to get those documents there, like, the meals and entertainment notes and stuff like that. Then they get questions and they have to answer those in a spreadsheet. It's pretty basic. And then, if we have any trouble, we call after, like, say we don't get a response for 3 weeks, we're calling. We're not emailing anymore at that point. So, and then of course we always want to evaluate, and the customer is doing this too, right? Like, we're doing this with our customers, but they're doing this as well. Does it make me happy? Right? Do they treat me well? Do they yell? Do they scream? Are they polite? Are they courteous? Are they, like, there's all kinds of things. Does this make you happy? And then the tough one for me is, in the long run, is this relationship going to be in the best interest of the company and the best interest of the customer? And when we went through a bit of a purge a while ago, we realized that we were working with some customers who would be better served by other people we knew. And so we decided to have a frank conversation with those customers. One of them really hurt because it was a personal friend. And I just had to say, like, we can do this, and we are doing this for you now. This person, that's the only type of, yours is the only type of business they work with. They're going to do a better job than we are. They're comparably priced, like, and you know what? Our friendship between me and that person is still very strong, and he actually has a lot of respect for the fact that we did that, and connected him with somebody who was able to help. One thing that I always recognize is, if you get contact from a customer and you just like, oh, it's time to have a good hard look. And I know that the customers go through that as well. So ask them, like, when we contact you, you just like, oh my God, another email from KATA accounting? Like, how is the actual emotion about that relationship, and how can you change that to be better? Like, so for instance, if there's, questions on a spreadsheet that aren't getting answered, maybe it's time for a Zoom meeting to go over them together and to do a little research together. And, maybe a couple hours can save, several weeks of back and forth, those kind of things.
Well, and just to add there really quickly, I think one thing to recognize is,
Sure.
if you determine that they're not the right customer for you, it does not mean that they're not a good customer. You can have people that are great customers that could be with the right fit. I mean, we've gotten rid of, some clients because they're pained. We've gotten rid of some clients because, they can't meet our flows. Like, our flows are weekly. They have to submit weekly. They can't do that. You know what? There's other people out here that are willing to still work with the shoe boxes whenever they drop it off. We're not. So just because, and that's frustrating for us and frustrating for the client. So as Jonathan said, they'll have a lot of respect for you when, if you can turn around and just say, listen, like, we're not a good fit. This is frustrating for you. It's frustrating for us. Let's, go out and find somebody who, will work the way that you work. If, of course, I first try to get them to work our way, because we tell them this is how we work. They're up for it. So we first try, but sometimes we can't. Sometimes you can lead that horse to water, can't make him drink it. And that's fine, but it doesn't mean they're not a good horse, right? So
yeah. Our brand champion, she lets us know when she's going on vacation, so that there won't be any submissions that week. I think that's awesome of her. Okay, so just some questions to ask yourself about building customer loyalty. Are you there when the customer needs you? I know we've all been through that this year with COVID. It's just been insane. Are you providing the service they hired you for on time and on budget? And another kind of extrapolation from this is this the service they need? And is this the service they expect? Because if there's a disconnect between what they hired you for and what they expect, they're not going to be happy. If there's going to be a disconnect between what they hired you for and you're doing and what they really need, you need to get into that upsell conversation and get them into that situation where it's worth it for you as a business to provide them what they need. And you have to explain to them they need it, right? Are you speaking with them, and how often? We actually speak to our clients surprisingly frequently. Like, I'm on the phone probably, at least a dozen times a week with different clients in different capacities. That is something that I'm trying to change, because I'm currently the bottleneck in the business. And is the relationship developing, and is it showing the value you've provided? Like if you're helping them, but they're just going down the tubes, you need to evaluate, are you going to be able to help them come up? Are they not listening? Do they need something that they can't do? We've actually been doing a fair bit of advisory pro bono this COVID pandemic, particularly for those businesses who have been into forced shutdowns or are just bleeding money, but are forced to operate to bleed less money and things like that. And then the last thing is, are you working with the customer or for the customer? If you're a cog in the wheel, if you're a number on the spreadsheet, that relationship is not loyal. If that customer is like, oh, I need to speak to Tanya because Tanya's my person for this, that is a relationship that will be loyalty. So I'm sorry, I'm really going to have to speed through the next few. So I'm just going to kind of run through the bullets. I apologize. I knew we could run into trouble here with this. So you built loyalty when the customer contacts you when they have questions about all kinds of things. I've literally got calls about recipes and spots to fish. So like just all kinds of different things. Do I know a mortgage broker? Do I know an insurance agent? Can I connect them with somebody who can help with their investments? Things like that. It happens a lot. I think when you incentivize referrals, customers will start sending referrals for the incentive. But I think it's really special when you have somebody who gets excited and they call you and they're like, oh, I'm going to give this guy your number and blah, blah, blah. I always ask for an introduction email. Almost always get that introduction email. And those brand champions are so excited that, when things come in, it's very, very easy to take things through the process because she's probably explained most of it already. The customer keeps coming back time and time again, and they think of you more than a service provider. There's a relationship there. You're not just a number on the P&L that's costing them money. So what hasn't worked for us is automating everything. Some customers prefer not to speak with anyone. One of the best reviews I got was, it was great. I did my taxes in my underwear at my kitchen table. So that was kind of an interesting one. Not setting appropriate expectations. We've talked about that. I've talked about that with my e-commerce experience with that particular company. Again, the referral incentive programs, people will refer anything and everything if it's for money. If it's for value, they're going to refer most of the time better leads for you. And trying to be too much. So trying to give everything, even though we hadn't had that price increase conversation, this one that led to loss of money, stress for the customer, stress for us. Again, like these are some of the things that haven't worked for us. All right. What has worked is phone calls. Phone calls have been really, really helpful. People are often shocked to get that phone call because who picks up the phone these days? It's usually a text message or Slack or something like that. So actually calling from the other people in our business too is very helpful because then they understand that there's a group of humans behind this. This is not robotic business. Regular communication with reports and follow up if they're not communicating back. I always ask everybody to follow us on social. I am not great on social. We are revising our social media strategy. But one of the things that I do is on Twitter, every time something comes out from CRA, it's retweeted on my Twitter. And it's just to keep that information flowing out there. So if a customer wants to look and they can look down, okay, where do I find, stuff about the new benefit program that maybe I'm not even involved with? They can look down the tweets and find it. Not everybody likes to do that, but yeah. And then part of our new social media strategy is going to be promoting the customer. I don't know if people do follow us. You would have seen the voting for F45 for a 25,000 US award through their, I think it's the franchisor. There's like a location voting thing to help with the pandemic. And this is a business that has been forced to shut down twice. They were originally scheduled to open in April, and they're at Lawrence Park in Toronto, and they got shut down again recently. So, it's not a good situation for them, but that's something that we'd like to do. Another company that we're going to be promoting shortly is Fresh Start Environments, which actually deals with disinfectants. She was just made some really lucky business decisions ahead of this pandemic and had literally a shipping container full of disinfectant arrive in November last year. And it's just, their business is just blown up. So, okay. Oh boy, we're really running out of time. Okay, we're out of time. Is everybody okay? All right, I'm just gonna keep running. So feedback loops, they have to be open, honest, and clear. They need to be from the team and from the customer. They need to be clear and easy, and you have to ask. If you don't ask, you won't get in this part of it. It has to be part of your workflow, part of your process, or it will get missed. And it has to be regular. So a continual improvement loop. So there's two basic kinds of feedback loops: negative ones like poverty cycle, positive ones such as continual improvement. In this instance, we're talking about continual improvement, and you have to do something with the feedback. I mean, if somebody's like, oh, well, you should be free. Well, of course you can't do that. But it's like, oh, you know what? You should, I don't know, be more detailed in this area, or just send the reports monthly instead of weekly. We might have a discussion about that, but maybe that's what the customer needs, right? Maybe it's too much. Anyway, I'm not even going to get into capturing and leveraging testimonials. All I'll say is it is part of our standard process to ask for a customer satisfaction survey, and this is cheating, but if we get a good customer satisfaction survey, which tends to be most of the time, then we ask for testimonials online, Google, Facebook, things like that. And I'm just going to keep going because we have one more poll question. So when does the customer experience begin? So just so people can get their CC, and then I think we're going to have to go.
Sorry, give me one sec. We're all panelists and I just have to, allow panelists to vote. Okay, continue. So while everybody's voting, sorry, just real quick, a lot of people, I guess, are having difficulty with the Google Sheet. So you shouldn't just open it. You should just be able to save it to your drive. But it seems that there's been some issues with that. So what I'm going to do is I will take those questions and I will put them in the email that goes out with the recording.
Awesome.
So don't worry, you will get that. Not today. I think it'll go out tomorrow. So it goes out within 2 days. Okay, 13 out of 13 have voted. So here's our results.
I think the customer experience begins when they realize they have a problem and they're aware of your business. That's when everything else starts kicking in. Your messaging, how are they finding you? What are you telling them before they even try to contact you? Are they self-excluding? Those kind of things. I personally, that's my belief. And again, these are opinion-based poll questions. So everybody is entitled to their opinion. It could be different. So, all right, well, we'll just end off with a quote. Every single interaction, the most minute details of the interaction you have with the customer are an opportunity for you to create something remarkable. I think that's true, and we're trying to always do better on it. I definitely don't claim to have all the answers, but I just want us to continue to improve. And that's the whole philosophy behind even the name KATA, because that's all it is. Mastery through practice. Do we have any questions, any comments, anything anybody wants to add? Was this valuable, or was this just rehash of it? Okay, I see some nodding heads. Okay, good.
Yeah, and I just wanted to point out that how you said about the phone calls, that's very true. You know, again, anybody who really knows me knows that my background is first off customer service. This is my third career, and in my last career too, by the way. But when I guess it was probably Sandra, what, about a year and a half, almost 2 years ago, I realized, because we were just emailing back and forth with clients, sending them this, sending them that. And all of a sudden it hit me that we hadn't spoken to some clients in 2 years. Now that's our tax clients. That's maybe one thing, but these are our regular monthly bookkeeping clients. We had been email communicating, but not calling. Now, I knew that there really had been nothing that we had done wrong, and that I knew that we had their loyalty. But what my concern was, and because these guys have been with us for ages, but what my concern was what happens if we do have somebody new or you aren't doing that, all of a sudden they talk to somebody else. Well, your bookkeeper, you talk to them every month, or your accountant, you talk to them regularly. Well, that I haven't actually spoken to mine in, a year and a half or 2 years. So I was worried that that loyalty would go away. So we actually did introduce that when we do their monthly review, we email it out, we call them. We don't necessarily have to talk to them. We will leave them a message, if we can't reach them, and just say, you know, hey, just checking in. Do you have any questions? How are things? So they've heard from us, and it's up to them if they want to call us back. We do try to reach them again, just with that, just to say how are things going. And I really truly believe that for the new clients that we didn't have a long-standing relationship with or whatnot, that does help keep that loyalty, because people are loyal to a person. They're not loyal to email words. They're loyal to a person. So.
Any other questions or comments? Okay.
I still struggle with just asking for reviews. It just, because I get bombarded with emails and I don't like them. So I'm always very hesitant asking for a review.
It's the customer is most likely to give you a good review right after they paid and they're happy. So like, for instance, in our process for T1 tax clients, is our final step of the process is to collect the signature. We get the signature and we file the return. We send them an email saying, thank you, your return has been filed. And that is followed up a few hours later by a customer satisfaction email that leads into a form.
And the satisfaction survey, just a couple of questions. 3 questions. If you ask them to go and do a review on a website, people will forget. I tell people all the time, yes, I'll do it. I truly have the best intentions, but then I get sidetracked and then I forget. But if something comes into my email and I can click and answer a few questions, if it's easy for me, and that's what Jonathan said in here, make it easy. If it's easier for me, I'll do it.
Exactly. And there's the people who really love you will leave those online reviews on your website, on Google, things like that. But the three questions is a general rule, 3 to 5. One of those for us is the Net Promoter Score. That is on a scale of 1 to 5. How likely are you to recommend KATA accounting to your friends and family? And then like the others are pretty much, we're trying to get that feedback. How can we make things better for you? And from the T1 perspective, we don't always take that advice. So. Okay, well, I'm afraid I've got to run. Thank you very much, everybody.
Great. Thank you. Nice seeing everybody. We'll see y'all soon.
Kim, I'm going to give you a call later because I want to talk to you about your animal lover ideas. Okay.
All right. Thanks, everyone. Take care. Bye.